Welcome to day 21 of our free sewing class. In today's class, we will talk about dresses or gown as it's popularly called, and we'll be drafting the pattern of a straight gown. Before we start drafting, I need to explain what you look for when you see a particular gown or a style that is in form of a gown. There are some things you need to take note of or put at the back of your mind. Let me show you some images of some gowns. When you look at this gown, it has joining by the waist. So how do you cut this? You cut the upper part, the bodice first, then you cut the lower part as a skirt, and you join both together. So you cut it separate. Now this next one also has joining at the waist, but the lower part is cut like a circle. You should know how to cut it. This is like a 360 circle. So you cut the upper part first and you cut the lower part. This does not have waist joining. It is cut together, the upper part and the lower part, more like a shape kind of gown. So you don't have to cut, you just cut this one together. Now this next one, it has no joining also. You cut it, but it is a straight gown. So let's go to the drafting. We'll just be drafting a straight gown with waist dart with that, and I will explain to you how you can make it either straight, pencil, or even a line or a shape. So the first thing, as always, is to draw our reference point. So that is the reference point. Now the next thing I'll do is to take my 3, 5 and 1.5 standard. You should know how to do that by now. If you've been following my drafting class, my pattern drafting class, you know I always do that. I'll take 3 inches. After taking 3 inches, I will take 5 inches. I will take my 1.5 inches, and I have explained why I do this. If you don't know, please watch my previous videos. You will understand. So that is our shoulder slant. Now I will measure the back so that I can get the armhole. Use your own measurement or your client's measurement to do all this. Then I will draw that line where I can get my armhole. Alright, there are still some other lines I need to measure. For the next line I will do is my waist or half length. That is my shoulder to waist. Then I will measure my hip line as well. Usually the hip is my hip is usually 8 inches below my waist, but if you know your hip line off from your neck, you can measure it. But for me, I will just mark 8 inches below my waistline, and that is where I will have my hip line. And that on that hip line is where I'll put my hip measurement. Now from the reference line now, which is the neck, I will measure to the length of my gown. Now if you are sewing a long gown, then you make it all the way to whatever length. If you are sewing a short gown, then you stop at whatever length. Don't forget, add your hemming allowance, you need ½ inch to join it at the shoulder level. Then you need maybe ½ inch or 1 inch to hem it at the lower part. So you just add it and you draw that line. That is the hem line. This is a short dress, but for a long one, and all these things we are doing here, you can do it on your fabric directly. You don't have to use a pattern paper. Okay, so let's continue. I will put my armhole measurements at this point, and at that point I will mark my bust circumference divided by 4. My bust circumference divided by 4. That is what I'll be marking here, and I will add 1 inch sewing allowance, and I will draw my curve. You can always use your curved ruler for this part. It makes it easier. It makes the job easier anyway. And you can also train your hand to use a free hand like this, so that anytime you are somewhere and you don't have your curved ruler, you can still work. Alright, so on the waist, we'll put our waist measurement divided by 4. And I will add 1 inch as my dart allowance. And I will also add another 1 inch as my seam allowance. So this first 1 inch I'm adding is my dart allowance. I will add another 1 inch sewing allowance. Then I'll connect. On the hip line, the same thing, my hip divided by 4. Hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch sewing allowance. My dart will not get to the hip, so there's no point adding hip allowance at this point. So I'll just connect the lines. And now let me explain the lower part, which is the hem line, before we talk about the dart. If you are sewing a straight gown, just measure what you have on your hip line, take it to your hem line and draw your straight line. Put whatever you have there. I want to reconfirm what I measured. So whatever you have on the hip line, place it on your hem line. Place it on your hem line. Just connect the lines. So this is just a straight skirt, a short straight skirt. And if you want it long, then you go all the way down to the length. Now if you want it pencil, you reduce whatever you have at that hem line. It applies to even the long gown also. Just come in maybe by 1.5 inches or 2 inches, then reconnect your line to make it pencil. Why I think why the name pencil means the lower part is kind of it's somehow tight. You get, it's still a straight gown but pencil. Did you see the difference? Okay, and now if it is a line, all you need to do is to diverge your hand, to move your hand away. Let me show you how to do. And your hairline, there are some hairline that might start at your hip. From your hip, you will diverge, you move away. Sometimes your hairline can start from your waist. So, did you see the way I try to place the ruler? Let me measure where I want to stop. So from that straight gown line, you measure how wide or how open you want your hairline to be. You should know what an hairline is. We've done type of skirts, so you should know what it means. So I'll just open, because I want my hairline to start from my hip. I'll just draw the line like that, and that will give me an A-line kind of gown. If you want it to see open more, you can take it away. You can open your hand and make it diverge. So this particular A-line is starting from my hip. If you want, your hairline might start from your waist. So if your hairline is starting from your waist, you don't need hip measurements. You just, from that waist, you just go straight from the waist and you diverge. Sometimes some hairline starts below your hip, so it depends on where your hairline wants to start from. But basically, this is how to draft a pencil gown, a straight gown, and an hairline gown. If it is a long gown, then you just take your line straight to whatever length your gown is ending. So it applies to both short or long gown. Okay, so let's work on the neckline. I'll just use my 3 by 3 neckline, when we start cutting fabric for real, we'll work on we'll do different type of neckline, but for now let's just do a 3x3 neckline. Then I'll cut out this pattern, and then I will add that. Then I must say also that if you are cutting an hairline gown, you may not add that, especially if your hairline is starting from the waist. You might not need to add that. You know, the purpose of that is for your fitted clothes to be more fit, to have more fitting. So if you are sewing an hairline gown, you don't need it to be that fitted, so you might not add that to it. There's no need to add that. But let me cut out this pattern so that I'll cut off the hairline kind of, and leave the pencil or the straight gown, so that it won't be confusing. Then we'll put our dart, and we'll draft the back. Alright, so this is what I have after cutting. The next thing is to mark my nipple to nipple, or my bust span. My nipple to nipple divided by 2. Then I want to mark where my bust line is, so that I can come down by 2 inches. You should understand this. If you don't understand, please go back to the previous day. I think maybe the 17 or 18 thereabout. That was when I drafted the bodies. We drafted bodies with that, without that, drafted blouses. So I explained how to take this, that. So for my waistline, I went down by 5 inches. Then I will add the bust span at that point, so that I can get a straight line to mark my dart. So on the waistline, I will measure ½ inch both sides, ½ inch to the right, ½ inch to the left, and I will join. As you continue your sewing journey, you understand how to put other type of darts, like a bust dart, depending on how busted the person is. There are times that you may have to use a bust dart for a client, but it's a factor of the person's shape. As you know, our body are not uniform, are not the same. So this is the dart. You just transfer to the other side. Then I will use this to cut the back, and I will transfer the dart as well, and put a zipper allowance. Now for a gown, your zipper allowance, just also for as the same for a straight skirt too, serves 2 purposes. That zipper allowance will also serve as slit for the back. I hope you know what a slit is. That is the opening at the lower part of your gown that allows you to walk. If you are not sewing a stretchy material, and you are not sewing an hairline gown, then you need that slit. If not, you won't be able to walk properly. The only thing that might make you not to put slits on your gown is if the gown will not go below your nail. If the gown is up above your nail, then you might be able to walk. But whatever will make you sew a gown that is below, that goes lower than your nail, and it is not a stretchy material, it is not a flare gown, then you will have to put a slit. So that back zip allowance will serve as opening also for your gown, and it will also do the work of a zipper allowance. And I must say that you can put your slit at any part. It can be by the side, it can be in front, depending on the style you are trying to achieve. But take note that if you don't have slit any other place, you need a slit at the back. So when you are sewing, you put your zipper allowance and you leave space for the back slit. Alright, so I'm almost done cutting. The next thing is to just to show you where my zipper / slit allowance will be. Then I'll do the neckline. I'll transfer the dart to the back, and that will be all. So when you are cutting, you cut the front on fold. You cut the front on fold, but the back you cut two pieces, two different pieces, two separate pieces, so that you can put your zip. Just keep watching what I'm doing. At this point, you shouldn't be confused. You should know what I'm doing. And for those that have been following me from day one, thank you so much for your for always coming back. Thank you for picking interest, and I hope I've been able to deliver what I promised that I will deliver within 30 days. We'll still do more. We still have like 9 days to go, and we can achieve a lot within these 9 days. We can achieve a lot. We still have a lot of ground to cover. And I must say that sewing is not, you can't just stop. You have to keep learning. It's not something that I've learned how to sew and I can stop. No, you must be like a sponge that keep absorbing knowledge for you to be good at this craft. And I want to encourage you, don't be discouraged. Even when you do a work that it's not perfect, just know that perfection does not come one day. It is a gradual process. Don't give up on yourself and keep pushing. Keep pushing. You'll get to master your craft sooner than you expect. Alright, so I've been able to transfer the dart, and let me say there's something we call tracing wheel. You use tracing wheel. The purpose is when you have a pattern like this and you have some marks you need to transfer on your clothes, you use a tracing wheel. Maybe I'll show you how to use a tracing wheel one of these days. Alright, so just trying to put the neck. I'm still doing 3 inches by 1 inch for the neckline. We'll learn how to modify neckline later on. And just keep watching what I'm doing. We are almost done. Almost done. I hope you can now draft a pattern for your gown. If you are using a pattern, assuming I have my fabric here, I will just put this pattern on the fabric and I will cut it out. That's all. And everything we have done here, you can do directly on your fabric. You don't have to use a pattern paper. You can do directly on your fabric. So basically, that is all I have for you today. And I'll see you in my next class. Thank you. God bless you.